Hi everyone, you're live Friday night, 7 o'clock. It's France v New Zealand later today, and we're going to do a bit of betting build-up with a face that many of you will recognize. He hasn't been on the show for a while. He helped me out a couple of weeks ago on a live show, but he's very much back into the thick of things. I can tell you based on my WhatsApps I've been getting from him, this man is excited about the World Cup. It's the one and only Oracle Rugby. Oracle, how are you doing, matey? I know you're Oraclepedia these days, but I still think of you as Oracle Rugby.
Yeah, Oracle Rugby, Oraclepedia. I got a Springbok shirt today, which you can see, and I'm going to get Oracle written on the back to make it simple. So yes, thanks for having me, Brent. And obviously, I'll be semi-regular over the next few weeks while the World Cup's on. I didn't get too involved in the Tri-Nations Rugby Championship. I've had a bit of rugby. I've concentrated quite a lot on local racing, but it's a Rugby World Cup time, and I've put all my eggs into one basket, and I'm really into this tournament, really excited. Even joined your Super Brew pool and paid, which I don't think I've ever done before.
Well, I tell you, you're one of, and the last I looked, because thank goodness I've stayed. I'm not a great admin person, and I'm absolutely exhausted after this week. I've spent the whole week at the computer doing videos and previews, and the Super Brew admin, 500 Rand buy-in, Gav. I mean, last time, 2019, we had 60 odd, and this time I thought, let me give it a push and get to 100. We sailed past 100 this morning. I'm now at POP, over 140 now. And I can tell you before I came on the show, I was getting a message every 3 minutes with a payment. So we could end up over 150, which means a pool of 75,000 Rand to play for. I'm going to do a provisional prize split tomorrow morning because, I have to give a bit of time for some of the stuff to hit the bank account and that. But I am closing things. If you haven't sent me your proof of payment by 9 o'clock tonight, I am closing off just in fairness because this first game is a very tight game and you wouldn't want someone sort of only paying after they've already called the correct one. Certainly not fair to the other guys because of the size of the pool. So, yeah, going to be very, very exciting. On that note, you can go to any of the other YouTube videos. You'll find the links below. Go to Super Brew. The pool is called the 7-1 bench split. And if you do want to get involved, you don't have much time, but go for it. But, Gav, on that note, before we talk about the rugby, one other thing I've noticed is I got a lot of entries early on. And then most of the guys who paid, though, are the guys who only have 2 hours. So they know they've got to enter and pay. The guy who entered 2 weeks ago and said he'd come back and pay has forgotten about it. Isn't it amazing?
It is. And, in this industry, I always use July Day as an example. You might not see a punter for 6 months, 8 months, but on July Day, he's logging in, he's having a bet, and whatever you're going to offer him or, excuse me, whatever's on that weekend he's involved in. So, yes, July Day, Rugby World Cups, these are the kind of things that wake people up. If they get in too early, the guy that asked you about the July horse 3 weeks in advance, he just saw a calendar date. But the guy that's asking you on the day or the day before, absolutely, I'd like to say that probably more than half of your paid entries have come in the last 3 days.
Exactly. No, it does come. I had a rush at the start. Let's call it all the diligent ones. And then, as you say, that changed. John Finlinson coming in. He was on the show earlier as well that we did. Draw 25-1. I like the draw in this game, Gavin. Now, rugby is not a game where you can really fancy the draw strongly. I just think it's a huge run, and anything sort of 25-1-ish is a decent price. So let's move on to this game. Of course, France up against New Zealand. It's a cracker, and the bookmakers are struggling to separate them. Before we get into the points lines, which I'll talk about, and by the way, we're going to bring up Boyle Sports points lines here. We are talking to them at the moment. They're sponsoring Couch Critic in his article on Good for the Game. And we will have some prizes on future shows that we do. But what do you make of this game, first of all, from a result point of view, France against New Zealand?
Okay, so a mate of mine phones me from Pretoria. The Ike loves me as well. He's not a fan of your show. I don't think he even knows, but I did send him a link.
This guy loves me. Not a fan. He's never seen the show or he doesn't like the show?
No, he's a fan of me, personally. He thinks I'm the wisest Ike he's ever met. I give him good advice, and he loves me. And his name's Alex. And he says to me, Gavin, who's winning tonight? I said to him, France are winning. He says, well, he doesn't believe me. He says he can't believe that people don't believe New Zealand are going to win. And I said to him, listen, there's 3 things for me here. The French are at home. They're coming out of I think they've lost once in the last 20 games. Again, I don't know the exact number, but it's a lot of games. I think they came very close to beating the Teichmann-Mallet record and the one that the New Zealanders have set. I think they're leading at 18 at the moment. They came very close to that, or 19. The point is, this French team is the best that they've been in, I'm going to say 3 decades, never mind 2 decades, a long time. Since I left high school, this is the best French team that's been around. And at the same time, although I'll always tell you there's never been such a thing as a bad New Zealand team, this is probably the worst New Zealand team that's been around in the last 3 decades. So everything's pointing to these guys. They're at home. They fluffed their lines in 2007. In fact, a guy called Larry Southwood passed away a couple of weeks ago. I had a bet with him, a couple of cases of beer for the French game in 2007, and I backed Argentina. And I'm sorry he's not around to see this video, because he would have fallen off his chair, because he would have remembered how he had to pay me. The French team today is not the French team from 2007. This is a proper French team. And South Africa's really destroying this New Zealand team a couple of weeks ago, and we all watched the breakdown show on the internet. Those guys were suggesting the referee was involved in all sorts of other rubbish. This New Zealand team is a locker room problem or change room problem. I think they'll get to the quarterfinals. Of course they will. They'll probably get to the semifinals, but they're not winning this tournament, and they're not winning tonight. This French team, I say, beat them by 10. I'm going to, at the same time, say that I'm expecting New Zealand to probably score around about 20, just because they're New Zealand and they can. But I think the French are a couple of steps ahead, and we can be looking at 30 plus for the French. So I'm expecting an overs points here at 50, over 50, over 49. I'm going to say 50 or more. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 55, but I'd like to say, if you're really keen on an overs points line like I am, I'm going to say rather go over on the French than go over on the game, because the French are more likely to score 30 points than the game being 50. For me, yeah, I'm an over. There it is, 24.5 at 0.94, 1.94. I'm going to say that's the gift of this game. Over French points at 24.5. The match points, judging by that, probably
I'll go back down. I think the match points are about 47.5 there.
Yeah.
Here we go, 45.5, 8 to 10, and just shy of even money, 45.5. So, in fact,
and they're at 47.5 even money, correct.
This is priced up, you'd say 46.5 would almost be the line. There was 49.5 earlier in the day. There are lots of reports. Yeah. Obviously, Gav, we just know so many people in France. I mean, I wish I was going, but I know so many people either there or going. And I got reports of major heat, and even at night, they reckon it's going to be hot. So there is a school of thought that says, the game could get a little bit scrappy at some stage. It's not that humid, but that the heat might slow the players down. I personally took under 49.5 earlier in the day, but at 47.5, I think it's probably about right.
Yeah, so that heat question, we always look at that and think, how does it affect the players? And obviously, some countries play better in the heat than others. Australia is a good example. They live in a very humid and very hot place. And, I spoke to a couple of guys overseas today in Europe, and they told me that it was blistering hot. It was so hot that they were putting air cons on, closing windows, and not even going outside. So I don't know what that's going to be like. It's a 9 o'clock game, our time, so I think that's probably a local time, 8 o'clock. And generally by 8 o'clock in the evening, it has cooled down. But I suppose it would benefit the French and not the New Zealanders, because the All Blacks come from a cold place. They're used to playing in cold conditions. But, I just can't see New Zealand winning this game tonight. I think, this is like us at the 2019 World Cup final. The English had priced up that game, and obviously priced it up because they knew they were laying England. Every bookmaker in Europe made money on the day. Us in South Africa, all the bookmakers paid out because South Africa won. I'm not going to say they had the wrong favourite. I think it should have been a lot closer, but I remember taking 2-1 about South Africa just a couple of days before the game. And it was obviously over-influenced by the price. And I'm going to say that this price is probably influenced by New Zealand, because I don't know that there's that many punters in France. I don't know that there's even bookmakers over there. So I'm pretty sure that this is too generous to New Zealand. For me, this game should be -3, -4. I think France will come out cruising in the first half. I think they win the first half by 7, 8 by a try and maybe a bit. And I think at the end of the game, they win by another try or half. So I wouldn't be surprised to see France win this game by between 10 and 15 points. It's unlikely to be higher than that. We know that nobody really destroys New Zealand. So I told people today a comfortable win, and a comfortable win is 8 to 10 points. And I think it'll be slightly more than that. And I really think the value lies with the French points and not the overall.
Yeah, I must say, I do like France, although I'm not really in the overs camp. I think this is going to be an incredibly tight game. I'm expecting, yes, a lot of kicks for post, which is not bad for overs because you need the kicks to go over. But I've gone low. I set my best bet newsletter out. I went low under 5.5 tries. I followed Henrik on that, although I got slightly a worse price because I took a little bit long to get it. But I mean, how do you feel about teams? I reckon they're going to take all their kicks for post. There's not going to be a lot of kicking to the corner in the initial stages unless they get a penalty right down in the corner.
So what did we see when South Africa came out a couple of weeks ago against New Zealand? I mean, I spoke to a guy, I hadn't watched the game, and he was going to watch the highlights. And I said to him, go and watch the first 20 minutes. Because even though it was 0-0, that was unbelievable defense from New Zealand. And that was South Africa saying, I know there's a hole, I just got to find it. And I think that the French will probably find that hole quicker than we did because they would have analyzed our video and they would have known how to deal with them. I say France score first here. They get up, they go for the try. I think they're going to score a try by default first. And then they'll chuck in a couple of penalties after that. You know the French love to kick. They'll kick all day long. When they're leading by 17, they'll still take a kick. And they'll annoy punters that are on minus 20.5. You know the story. You've been there before.
Yes.
So, yeah, I do think there'll be penalties here, but I think this is an opening. This will be an opening French try, opening this game up. Of course, New Zealand can score. I'm not saying they're not going to score first. I just don't think they are. I think the French are so fired up here. They score first. They win at halftime, and they'll cling on at the end if it's close. And if they're a little bit ahead, if they're 7 or 8 ahead, they'll take a couple of kicks and win it by 12 or 13.
I see Steve Reed joining us. Steve also coming into the
Super he loves me. Pool. Steve loves me.
Steve, is that confirmed that you love the Oracle there? And Steve's also coming into the Super Group pool as well. And so, yeah, this is going to be an absolute monster. Mark agreeing that they're going to go for posts early. Right, guys, I mean, that's that game. I guess, Oracle, just to finish off, let me ask you your opinion on the outright markets, anything you fancy price-wise, and then the balance of the weekend. I think you and I probably have another chat on Sunday maybe before the South Africa game.
Yeah, I like South Africa minus. I'm not overconfident on it. It'll probably grow before I get there. Bet of the week for rugby for me is Argentina. I cannot believe that England are even in the betting here. For me, this should be about -8 or -9 or even -10. I think Argentina are going to destroy England. I think we'll get a couple of close pluses with Namibia and I can't remember the other one playing Japan.
Chile.
No, I can't. Yes. Yeah, I think that might arrive to Japan. Were disappointing a couple of weeks ago. And I also think that the 62 Romania against Ireland is too much. And it's a time bet for me. I don't think that Ireland are going to have put that much into the game to beat them by 60 in 80 minutes. So I'm small on that one. But I've got to tell you, I've got a conflict of interest in an hour and 45 minutes, Brent. My mate found this Ben Shelton the other day. Phones me up. He says, this guy's going to beat Tafua in the US Open quarterfinals. I said to him, all right. And I started watching. And I got to tell you, he's playing Djokovic in an hour and 45 minutes. This kid's 20 years old. He's a couple of months older than my son. He's the first in 30 years to get to the semi-final in 5 attempts. He's unrattled, doesn't care about anything. He's trading at around 7-8 to 1 at the moment. It's worth money. There's a plus, obviously you can take plus a set and a half or plus 2 sets and a half. I'm all over this Shelton. I think he's going to rattle Djokovic and he's going to have a proper go. But yeah, for me, Argentina, best bet of the weekend, and second best is France tonight.
Steve Reed saying he likes Argentina, Fiji double. Fiji, of course, playing Wales. Any thoughts on that? There's been a lot of money for the Fijians.
Fiji can win that game, yes. I've taken a group multiple. I took South Africa, I took France, I took Fiji, and I took Argentina. I think it came to just over 40 to 1. I took one bet only one group multiple, small money for 40 to 1, and that's what of course I backed Lebok to be top points scorer because the South Africans always win that race. And I was a bit worried that Handré Pollard would be announced late today or even possibly early on Sunday morning. But I've taken Lebok. I think he was about 5 to 1. I'm happy with that as well.
Yeah, I'm actually on the Ramos there, and I must say Boyle Sports had a great price. They had around about 4 to 1 on him to be top point scorer. I couldn't resist that. And I've also got DuPont top player of the tournament at about 11.5. to one.
Yes,
So
did I ask you that question? Who actually decides who the player of the tournament is? Is it a couple of old women sitting around
this on
the
WhatsApp in the
table?
weekend. Maybe someone on the live chat knows. I mean, I know it is an official award. It's not like they're crossing over to the YouTube studio of Good for the Game and you and I are going to pick the player of the tournament. So there is something. But it's a hell of a good point, because if you're betting on the market, you want to have some sort of certainty as to how is the award actually decided. I'll give you an example. When you have cycling in France, for example, they have an award each day called the most combative cyclist.
Yes, I've seen that. The red number.
They leave it to the public to vote. I don't know if it's in the tour or something. So sometimes the public, if there's a Frenchman in the break, he could do absolutely nothing, but he gets voted because he's French. And, it's good to know how these things are decided before you get too carried away. I got to admit, I just got tempted by the price and climbed in. And I know, just to mention Couch Critic, because Boyles have come on board with Couch Critic. He's writing articles for them at the moment on Good for the Game. And he came in, and I believe Couch has gone mad on some of the top try scorers in that. He's absolutely lost the plot. And this guy, if you talk about you and me being excited for the World Cup, Couch can't wait to get stuck in.
I've got to tell you, Brent, I've met Couch. I've had a beer with him. He lives in George. And I've got to say, I don't think there's enough hookers in George to keep him happy. So he had to go somewhere else to find them.
No, excellent. And by the way, Mark said, I'm bringing up Mark's talking about the vote there, but Mark said earlier, you better have that case of beer ready when Ireland win the World Cup. And talking of case of beer, I think you owe me a case when we get together as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but the terms and conditions of that deal, Brent, is you've got to come and sit and drink them with me. So, yes,
that's fair enough.
They're available when you arrive.
We got to be 100%. That's the terms and conditions I remember well, and I mean I look forward to that. It'll be great to get together and have some beers.
In fact, I've still got one with Henrik that dates back to January. He still hasn't come and sat down with me and had a beer yet.
Okay, yeah, and you guys actually live close together.
Yeah, we do.
And there's Crow Tips. Hello, fine gentlemen. Thanks. Neither of us have ever been called that. Thanks.
I don't think I've been described fine in a long time. Correct.
But excellent article. Good. By the way, this is only I've had 2 beers on the show, but I've had a rough week, but really enjoyable week, just doing all the World Cup stuff. And I can't wait for the show now. I'm going to kick back and I'm going to watch this game. I am back in the draw. I've just got a feeling, but I'm also, as time approaches, I think I'm going to be having a punt on France. And I think, Gav, probably for one of the first times ever, you and I will be shouting together in the opening match.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm touching the draw yet. I might, if it's separated by 3 or 6 with 10 minutes to go, I might put a little bit on, but in running. But I'm not interested at this point.
Excellent. Well, that's
yes. I mean, in a tournament of 50-odd games or 48 games, there's likely to be a couple of draws. You just got to find them. That's all.
Yeah, and I mean, I've got a feeling this weekend it's going to. I mean, let's face it. Like you say, a game can be really close, but be far from a draw. I mean, a 1-point margin. You could argue it was close to the draw, but in actual fact, you were never close to the draw because you.
Correct. You weren't. It has to be 3. The 3ers and the 5ers and the 7ers are much closer.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, interesting one. But no, guys, thanks very much to the boys who joined us on a Friday night in the live chat. Can't wait for 9 o'clock or 9:15 the kickoff. 9 o'clock is the close for the Super Brew. I've got loads of admin ahead of me still tonight and tomorrow morning, and a few previews to do as well. But looking forward to it. Great catching up with the Oracle, and we'll certainly talk to Boyles as well. See if we can get a couple of vouchers or something going forward on the show. Gav, great chatting to you. Thanks to everyone in the live chat. Have a great World Cup, guys.
Thanks.